Okay, so yesterday we just did basic notes for force and motion. Just that a force is a push or a pull, and push means that you're moving something away from you, and pull means that you'd be moving something towards you. So we got through gravity and the fact that gravity's job is to pull things together, which typically would be like holding us down on the earth or pulling us towards the ground, okay? And the fact that we are able to overcome gravity just for short periods of time, like you jumping on a trampoline, or you jumping off your couch, or you jumping on your bed. So we're going to look at two things that go along with force, and then I'm going to ask you to explore on a website just to look at those two things. So in your notebook, like I'm towards the bottom, so I'm actually going to flip to the back of mine, but I'm going to give myself a bullet point here, and you don't have to put another heading because it all goes along, sorry, my finger's in the way, with force and motion. Nope, still in the way. There we go. Okay. I'm going to put attributes of force. There's two things that goes along here. So if I'm writing in my notebook, you should be writing in your notebook. So you need your science notebook, you need a highlighter, and you need a pencil. I'm actually going to get up really quickly and get my highlighter. If at any time I'm writing too fast, because if I write it down, you should be writing it down. If I'm writing too quickly, then I need you to pause it and finish writing what you need to write. I'm going to write down the greater the force, the greater the change in motion. Okay, I'm going to leave this here for just a second. If you need to pause it so you can write down what you need, I want you to do that. That sounds really big and really fancy, and probably like it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But it basically means that the harder you push on something, the farther it should move. The harder you pull on something, the harder it should move. If you've ever tried to push your brother and you just lightly push him and he doesn't really go anywhere, there's a difference between you bumping into him and moving him and you shoving him and moving him. So that's what that means. The greater the force, the harder you push, the harder you pull, the greater the change in motion. If you're really pushing somebody, they should move farther. So I'm going to explain this right underneath. I'm going to put a little dash here. I'm going to write the harder I push or pull on something, the farther the object is going to move. I'll fix this in just a second. I'm actually going to take my highlighter and I'm going to highlight this whole piece. Now, if you need to pause it, I want you to pause it. Okay. You're going to have it, I don't have this fully set up, but this is going to be what you do next. So this will be your number 2. I don't have the video in here yet, but it's going to take you to, let's see, this. When you're done, I'm going to let you play on here because I'm going to show you mine in a second. You're going to use net force, and it's going to look like this. And you're going to practice putting people in here. So it can show you the values. But this basically means that if this person is pulling with more force, it should be moving in that direction. The harder you push or pull on something, the farther that object is going to go. If you try even motion, the harder you push on something, the farther that object is going to go. Now, I'm going to go back to my notebook because there's a second part of force. So I'll skip a line and I'll put a number 2. I'm going to write down the more mass an object has, the more force you need to move it. Now, I know that mass is not weight, but this basically is saying that the bigger it is, the heavier it is, the more mass it has, you're going to have to work harder to move it. But think about the fact that it's probably easy for you to pick up your backpack. Would it be as easy for you to pick up 5 backpacks at the same time? You could probably still get it done, but you'd have to lift with more force because you're picking up heavier stuff. If you ever moved things around in your room and you wanted to move your bed to the other side of your room, or you wanted to move your dresser to the other side of the room, you probably have to push pretty hard to get that to move because it's a bigger, heavier object. Right underneath this, I'm going to put a line. I'm going to say, because this basically means that the heavier an object is, the more force I need to move the object. Now, I'm going to take my highlighter and I'm going to highlight this last piece. When you have written down what I have written down, you're going to use the link on Schoology and you're going to play around with this website where you can try different things. So if I go back here, you can play around with net forces where you can put different amounts of force on either side and see which way it moves. Motion, the harder you push, the farther it goes. We haven't talked about friction yet, but you're more than welcome to play with it. Acceleration is just moving things, okay? So if you want to set something on top of here, the heavier it is, the harder he's got to push. Eventually we start moving, okay? Whatever you would like to play with on here, take a few minutes and play around on this website. You're not going to different websites, you're only on here. When you are done here, I want you to read on Epic. And then by that time, I should be back from my meeting. Make sure your notebook matches my notebook. This is it.